On this week's episode of Failed Presidential Candidates and just general failures of human existence, Ted Bundy. Sorry, wrong serial killer. Ted Cruz. Now, I'm unsure exactly when Ted Cruz was hatched, but on December 22nd, 1970, the aliens decided to stick him in a flabby skin suit and banish him to Earth as Rafael Cruz, the son of a Cuban immigrant living in Canada. Unfortunately, Rafi's human dad was also a rich oil man and would eventually bring Rafi to Texas, so any hope of reform for whatever the aliens banished Rafi for was pretty much zero. Rafi grew up like a privileged little white bitch going to private school and shit, so obviously he needed a privileged little white bitch name, so he started going by Ted. You know, it's a lot harder to be taken seriously for how much you hate immigrants and minorities when your name is Rafael. Rafi would eventually go on to Princeton and Harvard Law like a true man of the people, and then would go on to dabble in all of the douchiest types of lawyering he could get his hands on. After a short stint in clerkship, he went on to private practice where he did some lawyering for the NRA and helped with the Clinton impeachment. After that, he helped with the Baby Bush campaign, and during that time, he was the man responsible for putting together Bush's legal team that took care of the whole Florida recount thing that, you know, gave us one of the worst presidents in history. Then in 2003, old Rafi became Texas Solicitor General. Here he focused on the real important things facing Texas, like making sure that a statue of the Ten Commandments could stay at the state capitol and kids were forced to say, "Under God" in the Pledge of Allegiance at school. He also successfully fought to keep gerrymandering strong in Texas, and he also fought to make sure that Mexican immigrants would be executed despite their murder trial violating the Vienna Convention of Consular Relations. During this time, he also refused to vacate the 16-and-a-half-year prison sentence of Michael Wayne Haley, a man who had committed the egregious crime of stealing a calculator from Walmart in 1997. Thank God Texas had old Rafi there fighting the good fights. Then he went back to private practice for a little while where he defended righteous clients like Pfizer when they were sued for overcharging. He also defended a Chinese company for stealing blueprints from a man in Florida, and Toyota for withholding documents in a product liability case. You know, cases of integrity. Then in 2012, he went on to run for a Senate seat in Texas as a Tea Party candidate. For those who don't remember the Tea Party, it's like the MAGA origin story. When the fringe, far-right, lunatic Looney Tune candidates started getting a platform, they just hadn't found their golden calf to worship yet. Anyway, he won the Senate seat and just really amped up the bar for being a shitty alien life form in a flabby human suit. As senator, old Rafi has sponsored 105 of his own bills. Obviously, we don't have time here to go through his triple-digit legislative douchebaggery, but they're all about as bad as you'd expect from a banished Klingon. Some of the highlights include trying to take healthcare away from poor people, prop up oil, gas, and coal, make it harder for people to vote. Ooh, here's a fun one. He has a bill called Protect Funding for Women's Healthcare Act. And the sole purpose of that bill is to prohibit funding to Planned Parenthood. You know, the clinic that's like solely dedicated to women's healthcare. Bills to allow unlimited direct campaign contributions. Bills to protect corporations who pollute a whole bunch. Like, think of any douchey bill you've ever heard of being proposed. There's like a 97% chance that Ted Cruz either wrote it, has written something like it, or supports it. But his Senate douchebaggery doesn't stop at just writing awful legislation. There's all sorts of other just like needlessly horrible things, like blocking a Senate resolution to honor Ruth Bader Ginsburg, despite his party having done the exact same thing for Justice Scalia, which he was totally on board for. He ran off to Cancun to warm up while the constituents in his state were freezing to death because the power grid in his awful state can't handle a cool breeze. During his 2018 senatorial race against Beto O'Rourke, he criticized Beto for using Beto rather than Robert in an attempt to get votes. That is the boldest lack of self-awareness from a guy who somehow turned Rafael into Ted. His 21-hour filibuster, where he read green eggs and ham on the Senate floor and led to a government shutdown, was so obstructionist that Mitch McConnell, the geriatric mutant obstruction turtle, was like, "Whoa, Ted, that's too obstructionist. Calm the fuck down." He's so awful, the majority of his own party can't even stand him. Even Lindsey Graham, the dude who is so unlikable even hookers gag at his buttmoles, said that if somebody shot Ted Cruz on the Senate floor and the Senate held the shooter's trial, no one would vote to convict. Hating Ted Cruz is the most bipartisan thing in Washington. Actually, you know what? Quick sidebar. Texas, come here. Come here. We need to have a chat. What the actual fuck is wrong with you? I know shitty politicians is like your guys' #1 export, but seriously, we need to set some boundaries. This has gone like too far. When Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi all hate the same person, it's time to reassess. Seriously, what are you doing? He's all the things you hate, Hispanic and Canadian. Speaking of which, Canada, sidebar, come here. We really need you to come pick up your trash. We seriously have enough of our own problems without you exporting the Justin Biebers and Ted Cruzes to us. Y'all have plenty of space up north where they can't hurt anybody. Can you just like stick them up there from now on? Okay, cool, good talk. Back to the video. Where was I? Oh, right. With aspirations of being a shitty president rather than a shitty senator, Ted ran for the Republican nomination for president against Donald Trump in 2016, where his entire campaign ended up basically being just Donald Trump hurling personal insults at him. Donald Trump called him a soft, weak little baby, but the best liar that he's ever seen. An impressive endorsement from Donald Trump. Trump questioned his American citizenship because, you gotta play the greatest hits. Except this time, unlike Obama, Ted Cruz actually was not born in the United States. He fucking accused his dad of assassinating JFK. Oh, and tweeted a picture and commentary about how ugly Ted's wife was. Ted responded in kind with jokes about Donald Trump's penis and his Twitter habits. But since Ted's not actually human, his attempts at human humor usually fail to land. Anyway, Raphael went on to lose the primary, showing that people hate Ted Cruz even more than they hate Donald Trump. A truly impressive accomplishment. What's more impressive is that after he lost the primary, after Donald Trump accused his father of being JFK's assassin, called him a weak, soft little baby, and called his wife ugly, and after Ted said that Donald Trump was an awful human being who he'd never support, and given the opportunity to run Donald Trump over with his car, he probably would do it, he went on to show his monumental lack of honor, integrity, self-respect, love and devotion to his family, spine, empathy, self-awareness, decency, pride, basically any remotely human trait, and went on to not only endorse Donald Trump, but become one of Donald Trump's most ardent ass-kissers. So much so that Donald would start referring to Raphael as beautiful Ted. And can we all take a minute to appreciate that? That Ted tickles the balls so well that he'd end up being called beautiful by the man who tweets about how ugly his wife is. Now, normally this is the part of the video where I give my opinion on what kind of president he would have been in the hypothetical situation he would have won. But let's be real. He would have been awful, and also, he'd have never won. Because literally everybody fucking hates Ted Cruz, except for apparently a few idiots in Texas. Yeah, Ted Cruz is basically just the worst timeline version of K-Pax. And E.T. can phone the fuck home any day now. You won't be missed by, like, literally anyone.